December, northern Italy, 218 BC. A Roman soldier opens his eyes to darkness. His body is already shaking. Not from fear, from cold. He hasn't eaten, he hasn't slept, and he can't even feel his fingers anymore. Then the order comes, forward, into the river. Not a shallow crossing, not a careful march, a plunge into water so cold it feels like knives. The current slams into their chests, armor drags them down, weapons slip from numb hands. And when they finally stumble onto the far bank, they see them. A line of enemies already warm, already fed, already waiting. Iberian infantry, Gallic cavalry, African veterans, and behind them, war elephants. This isn't a battle. It's a slaughter being assembled in real time. Because somewhere out there, watching silently, is the man who designed it, Hannibal Barca. And today, Rome is about to learn something it never truly understood. Some commanders don't fight battles, they manufacture disasters. This is Reinvoke history, and this is the Battle of the Trebia River, the day Hannibal turned winter into a weapon and annihilated an army without mercy.
To understand Trebia, you have to understand humiliation. Decades earlier, Carthage, wealthy, powerful, feared, was crushed in the First Punic War. Rome seized Sicily, then demanded reparations so massive they felt like a choke chain around Carthage's throat. Carthage survived, but it did not forget. And one family more than any other carried that wound like a blade, the Barcids. At their head stood a hardened commander, Hannibal Barca. He looked at Rome and saw only one future, another war. So he did what Rome didn't expect. He turned away from the sea and marched into Iberia. Spain and Portugal, a land of silver mines, fierce tribes, and endless manpower. There, Hamilcar built something Rome couldn't see from across the water, a war machine. And with him traveled his son, a boy, a witness, a future nightmare. Hannibal. Legend says Hannibal swore an altar at an Asturian end, never to be a friend of Rome. Whether the oath is literal or symbolic, it doesn't matter, because everything Hannibal became points to one truth. This war was personal.
By the time Hannibal took command in Iberia, he was still young, but already dangerous. 26 years old. Rome and Carthage had drawn an agreement. The river Ebro would be the boundary. Carthage stays south, Rome stays north. But then came Saguntum, a city south of the Ebro, technically in Carthaginian influence, but allied with Rome. Hannibal watched it like a wolf watches a fence. And in 219 BC, he attacked. An 8-month siege, stone by stone, hunger by hunger, scream by scream. Saguntum fell. Rome demanded Hannibal's surrender. Carthage refused. And the world tilted into the Second Punic War. Rome expected a familiar kind of war. Send one army to Spain, send another to Africa. Fight like the sea always demanded. Hannibal smiled, because he wasn't going to fight a Roman war. He was going to fight a Hannibal war. Instead of waiting, Hannibal marched, not to defend Iberia, but to invade Italy itself. He crossed the Rhone. He deceived Roman forces sent to intercept him. He moved faster than Roman logic could follow.
Then came the obstacle that should have ended everything. The Alps. Mountains like teeth, snow like poison, cliffs that swallow armies. This wasn't a march. It was a slow execution. Tribes attacked from above, men fell into ravines, pack animals collapsed, supplies vanished. Hannibal began with around 50,000 soldiers. When he emerged into the Po Valley, he had about 26,000 left. Most of his elephants were dead, much of his cavalry reduced, but the psychological impact? Unmeasurable. Because Hannibal had done what Rome believed impossible. He brought war to Italy by land. And now the north began to stir. Gaulish tribes who hated Rome started to defect. Hannibal wasn't just invading Italy, he was turning Italy against itself. Rome scrambled. The consul Publius Cornelius Scipio, the father of the future Scipio Africanus, rushed back north. In November 218 BC, cavalry met near the river Ticinus. Not a full battle, but a warning. Hannibal's Numidian cavalry moved like smoke. They struck, they vanished, they struck again. Rome's cavalry broke, and Scipio himself was wounded badly. He would have died if not for a young rider charging into chaos to pull him free, his son, the boy who would one day destroy Carthage. But on that day, Rome retreated, and Hannibal learned something vital. Roman confidence can bleed. After Ticinus, Rome panicked. They summoned the second consul, Tiberius Sempronius Longus. Sempronius was everything Scipio was not. Scipio, cautious, wounded, calculating. Sempronius, ambitious, impatient, hungry for glory. Two consuls, two egos, one army. They joined forces near the Trebia River. And here is where Hannibal became truly terrifying. He didn't just study armies, he studied men. He learned Scipio would advise patience. He learned Sempronius would chase victory like a starving dog. And Hannibal built his trap around that weakness, because the best battlefield is the mind of your enemy. Hannibal chose his ground carefully. A plain near the Trebia, cold winds, open space for cavalry, and most importantly, a small stream with thick vegetation, brush, reeds, hidden banks, a place where men could disappear. Then Hannibal called his brother, Hannibal Barca. Mago was loyal, ruthless, and silent. Hannibal gave him a simple mission. Choose 2,000 elite troops, 1,000 cavalry, 1,000 infantry, and hide them in the vegetation near the battlefield. No fires, no movement, no sound. Not until the signal, not until Rome is fully committed. This was not just strategy. This was surgery. Before dawn on December 18th, Hannibal set the hook. He sent his Numidian cavalry to strike the Roman camp. They screamed in. They hurled javelins. They cut down sentries. Then they retreated, fast enough to stay alive, close enough to keep the Romans furious. The goal wasn't damage. It was emotion. And it worked. Sempronius woke to chaos. He didn't consult Scipio. He didn't wait for proper formation. He ordered the entire army out immediately. Thousands of Roman soldiers stumbled awake, half-dressed, unfed, shivering. And then he ordered them to do the unthinkable: cross the Trebia River. Picture it. 40,000 men entering freezing water. The river reaches shoulders, in places the neck. The current slams into them. Armor pulls downward like hands of the dead. Men lose footing. Men drown silently because the river steals breath. When they reach the far side, they are not an army. They are exhausted bodies. Hands too stiff to grip weapons, teeth chattering like bones. And across the plain, Hannibal's army waits, warm, fed, ready. Because Hannibal prepared like a predator. His men lit fires, they ate, they rested. And here is the detail that shows the mind of Hannibal. They rubbed oil into their bodies. Not superstition, practicality. Oil keeps muscles flexible in cold. It keeps the body warm longer. The Romans arrived as victims. The Carthaginians stood as executioners. Rome had numbers, about 36,000 infantry and 4,000 cavalry. Hannibal had fewer infantry, around 20,000. But cavalry? That's where Rome was doomed. Hannibal had 10,000 cavalry, more than double. And then, the elephants. His infantry was a mosaic. African veterans, disciplined, armored, elite. Iberian warriors, tough, aggressive. Gallic tribesmen, massive, ferocious, unpredictable. Different languages, different gods, different cultures. But Hannibal welded them together with one thing: victory. The infantry collided in the center. Roman legions pushed forward, stubborn as stone. Even freezing, they advanced in formation. Carthaginian infantry absorbed the Udar and held. Then Hannibal unleashed the elephants. They thundered into Roman skirmishers. Horses panicked at the smell, the size, the screaming weight. Rome's light troops scattered, and now the real killing began, on the flanks. Hannibal's cavalry struck like a storm. Numidians harassed and baited. They attacked, retreated, circled, attacked again. Gallic cavalry hit like hammers. Roman cavalry broke quickly. Then it ran. And in war, once cavalry runs, the infantry is blind. Rome's flanks collapsed. The legions in the center kept fighting, not realizing they were being wrapped from both sides, a noose tightening. And Hannibal waited, because the trap was not finished. This is the moment. At the height of battle, when Roman soldiers are fully committed, when their minds are locked forward, Hannibal gives the signal. From the vegetation behind the Roman army, Mago erupts. 2,000 hidden troops crash into Rome's rear. Screams, confusion, panic. Romans turn, formations break, and the Roman army does what Hannibal wanted all along. It becomes a crowd. And crowds don't fight. Crowds die. The battle turns into a massacre. But even inside disaster, discipline can survive. About 10,000 Roman legionaries in the center do something desperate and brilliant. They form a compact block, a moving wall of shields and steel. Then they march, not backward, forward, straight through the enemy's center. Hannibal's center is held largely by Gauls, brave but less disciplined than the African veterans. Under the pressure of Roman formation, the Gauls give ground, and the Roman bloc breaks through. Those 10,000 escape, retreating in order toward Placentia. But for the rest, there is no escape. Brutal, slow. The survivors run back toward the Trebia, but the river is still there, still freezing, still hungry. Men try to cross. Many drown. Some collapse from hypothermia. Others are cut down from behind. Thousands die in the water. Thousands die on the bank. Thousands are captured. By the time the killing ends, Rome has lost around 20,000 in a single day. 6 hours, a winter morning, an entire army erased. Quiet, reflective. Hannibal won. Completely. But winter doesn't care who wins battles. The elephants, injured, exhausted, starving, could not survive the cold that followed. Almost all died in the weeks after Trebia. Only one, Surus, is said to have lived. Even Hannibal, the genius, could not command nature forever. News reached Rome like a curse. The people couldn't understand it. How could Rome lose on Roman soil? The panic was real. But Rome did not collapse. It adapted. Still, Trebia changed everything. Gaulish tribes flooded to Hannibal's side. His army grew. His legend expanded. And Rome realized the truth. This enemy wasn't just strong. He was different. He didn't fight to win honor. He fought to destroy you completely. Trebia was only the beginning. Hannibal would march deeper. He would win again at Lake Trasimene, and then he would deliver the greatest massacre Rome had ever seen. Cannae. But that's another story. For now, remember Trebia for what it truly was. Not a clash of armies, but a trap. A trap built from ego, triggered by impatience, executed with cold intelligence. Hannibal didn't defeat Rome with numbers. He defeated Rome with understanding. And on that winter morning, he proved a terrifying lesson. An empire can be beaten if you can make it walk into the river first. If you enjoyed this cinematic breakdown of the Battle of the Trebia, and you want the full story of Hannibal's campaign through Italy, including the horror of Trasimene and the nightmare of Cannae, then subscribe to Reinvoke History. Because history isn't made by heroes. It's made by men who understand fear and use it. This is Reinvoke History, and I'll see you in the next war.